certain way by first of all, once again, thanking each and every one of you individually and collectively for co-creating with us this interaction. We thank you for being willing to be ambassadors of your civilization and for allowing me to be an ambassador of mine in our representation of the Association of Worlds, of which one day we perceive you will eventually partake. We thank you for co-creating these interactions to allow us to experience the gift of your unique presentation of consciousness, so that we may also learn from you that many more ways that the infinite creation has of expressing itself within the overall existence. Before we begin with sharing, we would like to discuss a certain concept we have to some degree already discussed with many of you, the idea that your locale, which you call the Santa Fe area, has a certain kind of frequency that is somewhat different from many of the other electromagnetic vortices points upon your planet. The Santa Fe area has vibrations that are connected to similar vibrations on many other worlds. So you could say, in effect, that there are Santa Fe's on other planets. Not, of course, that as appears on your planet, but that the vibrational frequency is the same. And so, because of the law of vibration in like attracts like, you will find that the frequency of your Santa Fe area, being similar to the frequency of other Santa Fe areas on other planets, allows you to be connected to those areas in energy and in the correct state to access information from all those other areas that overlap in vibratory frequency, thus making your Santa Fe area a very active center of knowledge and information, which will only grow in the years to come. Now, beyond this concept, we would also like to discuss something which we have never really talked about before, and it may also be the entitlement of this particular recording, and we will call it electromagnetic geography. Now, this may be a mouthful if you wish to say it that way, but we will explain it as quite simple. The idea is simply that certain areas, physiologically speaking, will be representative of certain concentrations of the electromagnetic energy, what you typically call the electromagnetic field, which are far more than that. But what we refer to as the electromagnetic field, same thing, electromagnetic energy. This field is concentrated in certain ways within the grid of your planet and creates certain effects by these concentrations. This is really a relatively simple concept, but it may be something you have never looked at in quite this way. Imagine, if you will, that you have a flat piece of ground. Imagine, if you will, a literal grid of lines upon the ground, lines that go this way, lines that go that way, similar to the grids that appear on your drawn maps. Now, imagine that you allow the ground in a certain area to rise or to sink, and in your imagination, picture the distortion of the grid as it does so. Picture the lines bending to accommodate the idea of the rising and sinking of forms, and notice that as it does so, these lines begin to intersect and bunch up in certain ways that represents concentrations of energy. So the idea behind this is to recognize that what you call physical, material geography is really nothing more than electromagnetic fields forming into certain concentrations, alignments, and arrangements that are represented in your physical reality by rises and falls of what you call the landmass, or the physical material of which your planet is made. But there is something else in this to consider. For think about the sensitivity that many individuals on your planet have had over thousands of years of where it is, the kinds of places they choose to go to meditate and be in touch with the universe. You typically ascribe the idea of meditation to such places generally, as mountaintops. But why should this be so? There are many other places, of course, that are representative of good meditation points, but generally, the idea of the mountaintop is that, electromagnetically speaking, it is literally a concentrated apex of electromagnetic energy. So by being there in that particular warp or distortion of the electromagnetic field, where it rises to a peak, the electromagnetic energy is concentrated there, and as it connects into all other electromagnetic energy, it allows for clearer reception and transmission of the electromagnetic pulses that are representative of your physical form, your physical body. It is like standing directly in the path of a transformer, or a current, or a carrier line, or a carrier wave of concentrated electromagnetic fluid, so that you are transmitting more powerfully, so that you are amplified more powerfully by the distortions themselves in your geography, in your electromagnetic geography. So when you feel drawn to certain places on your planet, it is no accident. As you change your vibrations, there will be representative points in the electromagnetic field on your planet that will be conducive to magnetizing you, to lure you to those locations, so that you will be in sync, as you say, in harmonious synchronization with the electromagnetic field, so that you will be afforded a greater degree of manifestation of your thoughts into physical materiality. In this way, it is similar to the concept also of gravity, because gravity is really nothing more than certain kinds of concentrations and distortions of a larger and slightly different vibrational electromagnetic fluid field. Thus, you will find that gravity is not really the concept of a property of matter per se. It is a property of the distortion within the field itself, which you represent as matter. Now, some of your scientists have already realized this for quite some time, but there are also little bits of differences to this connotation as we are meaning it. The idea to recognize is that gravity is simply literally the attraction of like vibrations to like vibrations. It is not the idea literally of atomic interaction or gravitonic interaction, as some of your scientists are theorizing. It is like vibration to like vibration based on the overall distortions and frequencies that crop up in the electromagnetic fields. Matter is really nothing more, in a sense, than a spiral of that electromagnetic energy, a whirlpool of energy, in a sense. Atoms, as you call them, are really empty spaces, but it is their motion, their spin, in a sense, their cyclical motion that allows them to interact with each other in certain ways, and very often, what you call two particles are actually simply different ends of a cyclical motion, or a tube of energy spinning. In this way, you have the matter and the antimatter universes. For on one side, you see the spin go one way, but on the other side, you see it go the other way. And that would be called the antimatter universe. The reason that matter and antimatter cancel each other out is because you know, if you watch in any kind of experiment by setting up whirlpools in water, that if they're spinning the opposite ways and they collide, they will simply cancel each other out and turn back into the flat electromagnetic energy that they originated from. That is what matter is. Spinning vortices. Spinning vortices. And these vortices build up and reinforce each other to create larger vortices and larger vortices. And these will have their certain vibratory patterns and will attract the smaller vortices to them to add to the overall momentum. So they use you, in a sense, to add to their momentum, and you can use them to add to your momentum and become one with the electromagnetic whirlpool and amplify yourself in that way. We have said also, in this sense, therefore, that your Santa Fe area is a very strong bubble, a very strong vortex of a very particular vibration, as we have just said, that is associated and affiliated with vibrations on other worlds. Distance, time, they mean nothing within the heart of the vortex. For again, remember, your concepts of space and time are really only felt primarily at full strength within the flatter portions of the electromagnetic grid. Within the whirlpool, distortions, time and space become meaningless. And as you stay within the center of yourself, and as you are attracted to flow into the center of the vortex, or into the separate bubble realities we sometimes refer to them as, you will begin to sense a quality of timelessness, an eternal nowness, a suspension of time, a magical feeling, sometimes you call it. A spacelessness, where certain things can seem to happen that take no time, occupy no space, or occupy everywhere, or all time. It is basically the same effect. These bubble areas are concentrating on your planet now, becoming stronger and stronger and stronger because you are aligning your energy by exploring and examining these concepts of your consciousness. You are adding to the overall momentum of the ability of your planet to become totally aligned in that way through the linkage, through the network, through the web of these vortices. Every thought you have, every belief, every emotion changes the eddies and the currents of the ocean of this electromagnetic fluid. You are immersed in this ocean. In fact, you are made of it. For you yourselves are nothing more than concentrations of that fluid, physiologically speaking. Your consciousness itself originated this fluid and crystallized out of it your physical representational selves. You are made of yourselves in that sense. Self-supporting, self-reinforcing, self-perpetuating, self-accelerating. You are homogeneous, and any differentiation you experience is because of the particular patterns of vibrations you impose upon that fluid and the crystallizations that result therefrom. But if you understand that you are doing this, and you understand that the differences are your creation, you can dissolve those differences and have immediate impact over many things that heretofore may have seemed like remote occurrences or remote objects, because it is all made of you. It is all extensions floating within the sea of electromagnetic fluid that is the physical version of your consciousness. Once again, remember, we remind you, your consciousness is not in your body. Your body is in your consciousness. You are dreaming yourself as physical reality. You can dream whatever dream within that dream you wish. We thank you for allowing us to remind you of this in return for the gift of your sharing. We ask you now, in what way may our civilizations be of service to you? You may begin with sharing.
Good evening.